Yani, please pray for me. Okay. So let's go back again to the video to complete it. What was the video about? Do you remember?
Learner autonomy.
Yes, learners' autonomy. And what do we mean by learners' autonomy?
Students responsible for self-learning.
Yes, to let the learners take the responsibility for their learners. And this is very important in a way. And here the teacher's role is very important. The first important issue is to raise your students' awareness of their learning. How can we raise their awareness, or how can we increase their awareness? By asking these questions. A, what have you learned? What have you found easiest? What have you found most difficult? What do you think you could do to improve? So some one of you can ask, can I train my little students or my little kids, for example, in grade 1 and 2, on questions like these? Okay, let's discuss it together. Can we train very young learners to answer questions like this? What have you learned? Okay, how can we train them, Amira, to answer questions like these?
How what?
How can we make sure that young learners, for example, in grade 1 and 2, can answer questions like these questions? I asked it, can we train them? You said yes. How? How can we train them to answer questions like this?
At the end of the lesson, I ask them, what have you learned? مش فاهمة، أنا مش فاهمة السؤال.
Okay, again.
It's easy for learners to draw emojis like smile or sad face.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of asking a question. Just I try to them to read the vocab, and they draw smile face, something like that.
Yes, that's right, Mr. Muhammad. Thank you. Here, Amira, we said that how can we make sure that young learners, for example, in grade 1 and 2, can answer questions like these? And as Mr. Muhammad has just mentioned, we can ask them to draw smiling faces, maybe to read some vocabulary, to spell some words, maybe to draw some pictures about the topics we are teaching them. So it's not a matter of answering the questions, especially with young learners, but it's a matter of making sure they understand the lesson and got to the point, okay? And we do something like this in our sessions. We call it what? And it's in every training sessions. You can find something at the end to measure if you got the idea or not. We call it only two words. We call it exit ticket. For us as adults, we call these questions exit ticket. What have you learned? What have you found easiest? Sometimes what have you found confusing or confused? What have confused you? What have you found the most difficult? What do you think you could do to improve? And we can add also, if we are working with adults, especially prep stage, we can ask them, what would you like to learn next time? So the choice will become theirs and the ball will be in their court. يعني بنبدأ بقى we leave, or we try to encourage them to take more responsibility according to what they want to learn, okay? So again, by learner autonomy, we mean to give more responsibility to the learner to learn more and like the idea of learning. How? By raising your students' awareness of their learning. We can ask them these questions if they are adults or higher level students, or as Mr. Muhammad has mentioned, we can ask them to read some vocabulary, to draw some pictures, to spell some words, to answer some simple questions like the Udo and Out, crossword puzzles, and so on, okay? So let's complete the video, and please tell me when you can hear the sound. Is it okay till now? Is it okay?
Already, they're becoming aware of where they are in the learning process, and they're more active in their own learning. And as a teacher, You can tell them what you'll be doing in the lesson and why they're doing it. It helps them to understand the learning path that they're following.
We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is the Wizard of Wiz, if ever a Wiz there was. If ever a Wiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
The second thing you can do is get them to assess themselves. I don't mean actually test themselves, no, you do that of course. But before a test, ask them to predict how they think they're going to do. What grade do they think they're going to get?
Can you tell me, is it available for learners to assess themselves in Connect? Is it available for learners to assess themselves in Connect curriculum? Noha, where are you?
Here.
Okay, so here she talked about a very important point, which is if you want to raise your learners' autonomy, you can ask them to assess themselves. So is it available in Connect curriculum for learners, especially very young learners, to assess themselves? Is it available
It's
for
from
them?
the very first grade.
Yeah. How? In which shape or how do they assess themselves? Can you tell us?
Well, at the beginning, it was a very young age in KG and in primary one. They would just simply at the self-assessment part at the end of each unit, they have to do smiley faces or sad face if I know this, if I don't know that.
Yes.
So this
And
time
you
you need to look and find out if I know it, I don't know it, and just simple faces.
yes. So here,
Ms. Ferdouse?
yes, Miss
Ms. Ferdouse.
Samia. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Yes.
look, sorry, Ms. Ferdouse, from point of view, I think, Ms. Ferdouse, we have in Connect 3, I think there is a lesson is talking about favorite season, unit, I think unit 7, I think هنا is there is an exercise for the students or to assess themselves by writing a paragraph or just at least three sentences. The students have to write at least 3 sentences to talk about himself or to express about himself. What is his favorite season, and describe the season, like spring, like flowers. How about flowers? How about the weather, and so on. I think so.
Yeah. That's great. So we all agree that from the very beginning and with the very young learners, we can apply learners' autonomy, and we can encourage our learners to depend more on themselves and increase learners' autonomy. First, by asking some questions. We don't mean to let young learners answer questions, but only they can draw, as Mr. Muhammad has mentioned. They can draw pictures. They can read some vocabulary, and also they can assess themselves. And as you mentioned, there are different ways of assessing. It is not, by the way, to take or to answer some exams or to have some tests, not at all. But assess starts with only drawing some smiley faces, by ticking or putting a cross sign if they don't know the answer or if they do not understand, maybe by using the colors. And it is the same with us as teachers.
In primary 2 and 3, I think they need to put stars. There is a table at the end of the unit where they assess themselves.
Yeah,
and
yeah, exactly. And yes, Noha, and in grade 1 as well, I found that in Connect Plus they put stars also. So assessment here, sometimes we say that it's difficult to do something with young learners, but you all agree that now we can apply everything with very young learners by simple and easy ways, only by drawing, by ticking, by using colors. And we as teachers assess our learners, especially in primary from 1 to grade 4, using red, green, yellow, and the blue colors to assess them as excellent, very good, good, and accepted or not good. Okay, so it's very simple and easy. Nothing can stop us as teachers to apply or to train our students on, regardless their, of course, regardless their age. Age is not a problem now, but it's the teacher's role to be a facilitator and to accept the idea that he can do whatever he wants with his learners, especially, or either they are young or old. Okay, so let's complete the video and see what else about learners' autonomy.
What areas are most concerning for them. Then, when they've done the test and you've given them the results, ask them to compare the marks that they've got with the marks that they thought they would get. Were they right? Did they have problems in the areas they thought would be difficult? And ask them how they think they can improve. For example, do they need more resources, more exercises, online work, or whatever they need? Number 3, don't just give them the answers immediately. Ask your students to share their answers in class first. Get your students to explain their own answers, why they think they're right, and discuss this with their friends in class. This will create a great debate and will increase their confidence in their own opinions too. Oh, before I go on to the next practical way you can encourage your students to be more autonomous, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell so that you don't miss any of my videos and lessons. And of course, if you would like to have me as your personal coach or your teaching coach as well to give you some consultancy or online teacher training, do email me on the email below this video, deirdre@palmtreeteaching.com. I'd love to hear from you and to be able to help you. Number 4, menu lessons. Now, menu lessons are great for many reasons.
So what is the third thing to raise our learners' autonomy, self-autonomy? What's the third step? You can read, by the way, from the screen. What is the third point? Should we give them the answer to the questions immediately?
No.
No, we shouldn't.
Yeah, why? We should brainstorm their ideas and ask them to discuss their answers together. And at the end, we can give them feedback about what's right and what's wrong to get benefit from each other and add to their information and experience. Let's see together what is the fourth idea or point, okay? Let's see together.
Don't mean lessons about food. I mean giving a menu, a list of choices of activities and exercises for your students. Firstly, of course, menu lessons provide more choice for the learners to choose their own way of learning, but also for creating differentiation in the classroom. By having menu lessons, your students, whatever level of ability they are, will always be able to find something which they can access and do. And of course, this increases their engagement in the whole learning process. So you could offer a menu of skills work, vocabulary building, working from their course book, drama activities, anything you want. And it can all be related to the course book that you have to work on as well. And whilst you do this, of course, you monitor and support the students and set targets. Then at the end of the lesson, get the students to share what they've learned with the rest of the class and get them to reflect on what they've done and why they chose that activity. Your students will love your lessons. Number 5, outside class. Now, learning English inside school is clearly a great start, but to really develop, students need to get into the habit of taking their English outside the classroom. Learning English outside class with your guidance as the teacher will benefit them hugely in terms of their English development and in terms of their skills for life. Now, the internet also means that anyone can find any information, so get them to research things on the internet at home. And digital tools also mean there are lots more opportunities to be more independent as a learner. And they'll have more control over their own learning, and you as the teacher guide them to do this.
So again, what's learner autonomy? You can read. 50% students organize their own learning process. 50%
Yes.
teachers, this is very important, create an environment to support learner autonomy and the guide students. And how many steps can we use till now? We talked about 5 steps. Can you mention what are they quickly? What are they, or how can we increase or raise our students or our learners' autonomy? How can we increase it or raise it? Can you tell me what is the first point? What's the first point we talked about?
To let them assessment themselves and evaluate themselves.
Yes, to encourage them assess and evaluate themselves. And what else? Okay, what else?
Miss Ferdouse,
Yes, Miss Samia.
I wanted to mention 2 important things that they that she has mentioned, the teacher itself herself. I think first of all, when she has mentioned that learner autonomy depends only outside, not inside the room, the classroom. Secondly, I think also it depends also the learners should pick up the likely topic or the topic that which likes to discuss it. That's what I have understood.
That's great, Miss Samia. That's great. Thank you, Miss Samia. That's great. Okay, what else? So we can work outside the classroom, of course. Also, as Amira said, we can encourage them to assess and evaluate themselves. And also we can give them a menu of activities or a list of activities to choose, especially if we are applying differentiation. We are trying to deal with the different intelligences inside the classroom. What else? Okay, what else? There is something else. What else? Do you remember?
No.
Okay, let's complete the bit.
So, for example, a reading project. Why not give your students reading projects? Get the students to find something they...
What can students do outside the classroom?
Reading.
What can they do? Yes.
Reading projects?
Yes, reading projects. You can take them, for example, in a garden, and you can ask them to write about the park or the garden to describe the things around them.
And in Connect,
actually
we have a
want
lot of
to
this.
read. It could be a book.
Yes, sure, Noha.
Yeah, every unit you have to find things. You have to go and search for things. So they move out of the class a lot in the library, online, and even with other teachers.
Yeah, that's a great point, Noha. We can also guide our learners to search the information they want and to Google or try to give them some resources. They can learn from these resources by themselves. This is a wonderful idea. Yes, Noha, thank you. Okay.
Or it could be something online. Then get them to set personal goals on how much reading they're going to do or when they're going to read. You could even get them to focus on a particular language feature or maybe to find new vocabulary. Also, you need to get them to think about what's good about reading, how they feel they're improving their English when they're reading. It's up to you, of course. The second thing is also, why not give them speaking projects? Why not get your students to create their own English clubs with their friends after school? Let's say they have to talk English on 2 lunchtimes a week or 1 evening after school a week, for example. Writing projects.
What else can they do outside the classroom? So we have reading projects. The second, speaking projects. They can also talk about the environment around them. They can choose a topic and discuss it together with their friends so they can improve their speaking through or via speaking projects. What else? They can also do some, let's see together, writing projects. Let's see.
A great way to get them to reflect on their English is to get your students to write learner diaries in English. Or they could also write a normal diary of what they've done each day, but in English. Experiment project. The goal is to encourage your students to experiment with different out-of-class activities that they do in their free time. You could provide a few ideas yourself, of course.
So what activities can they do outside the classroom? Can you remember quickly? What activities can children or students do outside the classroom? Yes, reading,
writing.
Yes, writing, reading, speaking, and experiment projects. Okay.
they can choose from. At the beginning of class, get your students to talk about what they've tried doing, why they chose that particular thing, how they benefited, what they enjoyed, and what they're thinking of doing next. It could be a nice little warmer into your class. Now, of course, I've got lots of other videos on my channel made to support you as an English teacher.
Okay, so now let's wrap up. What's meant by learner's autonomy? Just one sentence, let's define it. What's learner's autonomy? What's learner's autonomy?
Learners' responsibility for their learning.
Yes, the learner's responsibility for their learning. That's right, exactly. Thank you, Mike. Okay, what about how can we raise our students, or how can we raise the learner autonomy? How can we raise it? We mentioned five ways to raise our students or learners autonomy. What are they? We can encourage them to choose what they want to learn. We can also encourage them to assess themselves and evaluate themselves in easy and simple ways, as you all agreed and mentioned, by using smiley faces, by drawing, by checking right or wrong, by using different colors. We talked also about what? Also, we can take them outside the classroom and do some activities. So all the time, the teacher is only a facilitator. The children are doing, or the learners are doing, the whole task is depending more on themselves. And of course, the teacher is giving them feedback at the end. And it's important to do lots of activities by the help of the teacher. And to be more successful, the teacher has to set the goals at the very beginning and let the students familiar with this or familiar with the idea of practicing with more autonomy and more dependence on themselves. Okay, we at the beginning of the session, we said that we have two important topics today, which is the first one is learner autonomy and the second one is the flipped classroom. What do we mean by the flipped classroom? Is it using technology only, or using the or teaching on campus or inside the classroom, or a mixture of using home assignments, using technology, and at the same time sitting or working face-to-face with our students? What do we mean by flipped classroom? From the word itself, it's flipped. It's not the original one, or it's not the traditional way. What do you mean by the flipped classroom?
A mixture of all.
Yes, a mixture of all. So in the flipped classroom, should we only use technology or give the students, ask them to watch a video only at home and discuss it at school? Or we can discuss some issues at inside the classroom and let them maybe watch a video or research or Google something on the internet. So again, it's a mixture of both. Okay, let's watch another video to sum it up, and let's go to a conclusion to finish today's session, because I want you to stay late as usual. Okay, let's watch another video and discuss it together, not to save our time. Are you ready for another video?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
It's a short one, by the way. Okay, tell me when you can hear.
The flipped classroom. Let's reverse where traditional homework and lecture take place. Now, I must warn you beforehand, watching this presentation can literally turn your world upside down. The first thing most educators are going to ask is, why flip? Well, here are a couple reasons. The flipped classroom. Let's reverse where traditional homework and lecture take place. Now, I must warn you beforehand, watching this presentation can literally turn your world upside down. The first thing most educators are going to ask.
So from the name, it's upside down. It's not the traditional or the way we are familiar with working from long ago. It's a reverse or an upside down way of teaching, okay?
Ask is why flip? Well, here are a couple reasons to consider. With a flipped classroom, the content becomes available
so let's see together, why do we flip our classroom? Why do we try to apply the flipped classroom, okay? Here are the reasons. You can write notes and discuss it after that.
Students beyond typical classroom time. Students are now able to access the content anytime. Benefit that comes with viewing content in video format is the ability to stop, pause, play, etc. Students can write down questions about the content at home. Then, when students enter the classroom, they are already prepared to ask these questions to their teacher. When a teacher flips a classroom, that teacher is able to walk around the room. Ultimately, flipping a classroom frees up time for teachers to work with students individually. Now, let's take a quick break to think about how our students...
So what is the first reason to flip the classroom? What is the first reason?
To save time?
Yes, to save time, and the learners are able at any time to watch a video, to stop and pause it anytime, to reverse or to read the information and go to the points again and so on. So it saves the teachers time, of course, and the students as well. The student can learn at any time he wants. He can watch a video, he can pause it to answer a question and go back again. Also, the teacher can go around the whole classroom to discuss what the students have watched on the video, okay?
Yes.
Are used to acquiring knowledge. Students of today mostly learn from their phones and computers. Students of today are comfortable with the flip model because it's how they usually access knowledge. Lastly, we know some students learn faster than others. Flipping a classroom allows teachers to personalize learning. Now, how do you flip a classroom?
What is the other reason to flip the classroom? What is the other reason? Students are different and they have different speed learning. So each one of them can learn at any speed he wants or as he likes, okay? Let's see together how to flip a classroom.
What steps should you take? Right now, I'm going to outline an 8-step path that I have successfully used to flip my classroom. Each step is represented with a star. The first step in flipping a classroom begins with the buy-in. Get your students, parents, and administrators on board with the flip model. Step 2. Curate the resources you need to flip a classroom. These are resources for instruction, such as YouTube video, online worksheets, quizzes, electronics, etc. Now, moving on to the actual first day of class, classroom management is required for a flip model, just like a traditional model. Very early on, be sure to spend time and incorporate expectations and procedures, as this learning style may be new. Number 4 is technology training. Teachers need to learn how to curate videos through YouTube channels and create playlists, and students must be able to access and interact with online content. Now we get to the actual flipping. And the number 5 is assign content for homework. Students will access content through videos, hyperdocs, interactive PowerPoints, slides, and much more. Next up, number 6. Students work on problems during class time. Students get to work on the application of skills in class, where a teacher walks around the room and facilitates and helps students as needed. Moving on to number 7, independent learning. With a flipped classroom, students become independent learners and have the ability to move through the curriculum at their own pace. And the last star in the sky, number 8, peer tutoring. Pair up your advanced students who mastered the content beforehand with students having a hard time completing the problems.
So, how to flip the classroom? There are some steps to flip the classroom. What are they?
Moving on to number 7, independent learning. With a flipped classroom, students become independent learners
Classroom
and have the
management.
ability to move through the curriculum at their own pace. And the last star in the sky, number 8, peer tutoring. Pair up your advanced students.
So, here are the steps of how to flip a classroom. What are they? How many steps are there? How many steps are there?
Resources.
How many steps first? Let's count the steps. How many steps? There are 8 steps here. The first one is buy-in. Buy-in here means how to train or to tell your students about the idea of the flipped classroom. So you can sit with your learners and tell them how they can stay at home, read a passage, for example, or watch a video or listen to a song. So you can give them the instructions or the steps on how you will flip the classroom. Second, you can tell them about the resources they can use, and this is very important. Here you are only a guide. You guide them to the resources they can use. For example, if you want them to learn about healthy food, about fruit and vegetables, or about any topic, you can give them the resources. You can tell them you can go to YouTube, you can use Google, you can use whatever means of technology. The third point is classroom management. It's also important here for the teacher to be able to control the class, either if they are working at home first or at the classroom first. It's very important. And number 4, technology training. Both the teacher and the students or the learners should be aware of some technological beginnings or start, or has some information or aware about how to use technology, how can you deal with it. Number 5, assignment content for homework. The teacher should be aware of how he can guide his learners to choose the best topics and the best websites, of course, the safe websites, which will not harm them. And also students work problems in class. Sure, the role here changes from the classroom, from not only teaching or explaining. It becomes a field for problem solving, discussing, and brainstorming ideas. And the number 7, of course, all these lead to independent learning, which we called previously or before learners' autonomy, how to depend more on themselves. And at the end, of course, students will learn from each others. And this is what we call peer learning or peer tutor. Okay, so this is how to flip the classroom. Okay.
Who mastered the content beforehand, with students having a hard time completing the problems. So what does it actually look like? The traditional model has students attending school where content is delivered by teachers, and students going home to work on problems. But here we are getting rid of that model and replacing it with a flip model. In the flip model, students work on problems when they are at school, and when students are at home, content is delivered online.
So, what it looks like now in the flipped classroom, what it looks like. Where do students solve the problems? At home or at school?
At school. What they should do at home, they do at school, and vice versa.
Yeah, yes. For the traditional way, they learn everything at school and go home to solve the problems, to answer the questions. Here it's vice versa. They solve the problems at school and they deliver the homework and the assignments at home. They can read, they can search the information, they can deliver all the information online, and after that discuss it at school and solve the problem together. And this is what we call learners' autonomy. The teacher only guides them, let them discuss, let them talk together, let them express their ideas, and after them only gives them feedback on what they have learned before. Okay.
Here are a couple tools you may need when flipping a classroom. YouTube will allow you to provide video lessons. Social media can help disseminate content. Devices to access online content. Google Doc links, slides to learn content, and sites to find the content. Readings can be used.
So, what are the most important tools, or what are the tools needed for the flipped classroom.
as well.
As he mentioned,
Content is
Social
Yes.
media,
can help disseminate content,
YouTube.
devices to access online content.
so the tools for flipping, students can use YouTube for videos, of course, video content. They can use emails, school, social media, of course. They should have devices, either computers, mobiles, or laptops. They can have some kinds of texts and reading. So still we have the hard copies of the textbook, and also they can search Google or any other safe platform. And we have to make sure that when we guide our learners to some sites, we should guide them to safe websites, not to harm them or not to let them search something bad or something wrong. Okay, so these are the needed tools. So again, it's very important now in the 21st century to have both the traditional and the flipped classroom or the technological tools together. And this is what our session was about in these tags 5 and 6. So let's finish to wrap up.
Google Doc links, slides to learn content, and sites to find the content. Readings can be used as well. Right now, I would just like to say thank you for your.
So we're going to wrap up. So what are the most important topics we talked about today? Can you remember? What are they?
Learners' autonomy
Yes, learners' autonomy and
and the flipping.
yes, and the flipped classroom. Okay.
Flip the classroom.
Which one leads to the other? Does learner autonomy lead to the flipped classroom, or both of them lead to each other? When we use the flipped classroom, we increase the learner's autonomy, or do we increase the learner's autonomy by using the flipped classroom?
When
How-
we're using
Both of them lead to the other.
uh,
When students use the new technology in their learning, of course, both of them, thank you, Ms. Samia, both of them lead to each others. When we encourage our learners to use the technological tools, of course, they will depend more on themselves, and the teacher will be only a guide and a facilitator. And when we flip the classroom, we will change the traditional way the students do not like today, especially because they like to use their devices, their mobiles, technology, social media, and all kinds of technological platforms. So
I want just to mention that we already used that when the ministry introduced the educational programs, and we were asked not to explain the lesson at school last year.
yes,
We
yes,
had, yeah.
especially during the COVID-19, during the pandemic, yes, we were obliged to use technology to send them some videos or to send them some links and some sites to look for the information by themselves. Until now, we are doing this, especially this year with grade 4, I think. All the time they are doing a project.
Or 5 and 6 as well.
Yes.
The programs are for
Yes,
all for the 3 stages, yes, and they watch
Yes.
it and they come and discuss, just practice more at class.
Yes, of course. And all the time, the Ministry of Education is assuring that all students should depend on the Egyptian Knowledge Bank, EKP, and they should use the platforms that the ministry provide them, like Edmodo, and all the other tools. And we have noticed nowadays there are lots of competitions, national and international competitions like Kangaroo and Hippo, I think. So all the time it's very important and necessary now to encourage our learners to use the technological tools. And should we encourage our learners to use expensive technological and difficult technological tools, or easy and simple ones, and to be aware of technology